Good morning, everybody. Another episode of the Keep Going podcast. Athletes shining a light on mental health. Dave, 193 this morning. I was about to say evening, and we're excited to have Madison Feldkamp on. Before we go into that, Dave, where are you coming out of, brother?
I'm coming out of Steamboat Springs, Colorado today.
David, not gonna lie, dude. I'm excited to see you next weekend, man. The event is finally here. What is your flight looking like when you get in town?
Yeah, I'm coming in Friday afternoon. But yeah, I can't wait. Excited for the event and get out there and make an impact.
No, I can't wait, man. 30 teams. Obviously, our first charity event. Madison, just to kind of fill you in. We have our first ever charity event that we're hosting next Saturday. And we're doing a charity wiffle ball tournament in the Rockford suburbs. So it's very exciting, not only for the impact, but also get to see Dave as well. So we're
My
definitely
gosh,
excited.
congratulations, you guys. That it sounds so exciting. Please send pictures, videos, tell me how it goes. I would love to see it. Next year, if you guys are doing it again, let me know because I am not
Absolutely.
too far from
Yes, you are,
Chicago.
which is great. Yes.
So just give me more of a heads up and we'll see what we can do.
I would love that. And not only that, but I'd love to have your family out too. And your beautiful golden retriever puppy that I just learned about in the
Gosh.
prelude. Talk to me about the puppy. Let's start off there.
Oh my gosh. So unfortunately, we lost a dog in March. He
Sorry to hear that.
was it's okay. It was very sudden. He was not very old. My husband and I had rescued him after we had gotten married, and it just was a blow to the family. And so we kind of, after sitting with it for a while, we're like, we need to fill this hole in our family. I had not grown up with golden retrievers. My husband did. And so we started to go on the hunt for what would be a good addition to our family, which funny enough, Ashley Lawson, have the same breeder as
Shout her
Ashley.
out. Shout out Ashley Lawson. Go ahead.
Love her. She actually doesn't live all too far from me.
Hmm?
So we meet up occasionally and she was like, hey, you got to check out this breeder. And so that's what we did. She is going to be 12 weeks old. She is a menace. I love her. I love her so much, but she has caused quite the stir in our household, for
Yeah.
sure.
Let's see if I can move my camera. I can show you what my allegiance is to Goldens. Hold on. It's in this
Okay,
corner.
let me see.
My Golden's right back there. If you can see.
Oh, what's her name?
Yeah.
Him?
Sophie. Yeah. So that is my wife's family dog, Sophie.
Okay.
I am a big Golden fan, and yes, they are menaces in the beginning, but they're doing it out of love, is what they say. So, no, awesome stuff. Congrats to your growing
Thank you.
family there as
Thank you.
well. And here's what I want to start with. I like when we get to know people, Dave. I don't know their entire story. Madison falls in that category, right? Around sports, been in sports. I want to dig a little bit deeper into how it all started today. So talk to me. When did you start competing in sports? What age was it like, hey, I want to do this maybe in high school and college?
Yeah. So I was a gymnast. Gosh, from a very, very early age, my parents were like, you got to go figure out what to do with all of this
Mhm.
energy. So it probably wasn't until I was about 6 that I really started to, get involved. And from there on, gymnastics was the center of my childhood. Like there was never any doubt that I was going to do gymnastics through high school and hopefully, fingers crossed, which is what happened, into college. And I competed at a very high level for a very long time. Worked out of an incredibly established facility here in Central Ohio. Um, was plagued with a lot of injuries in my life. So, my parents were a little bit like, oh my gosh, can we be done? But I just had such love and drive of the sport that I never let those things deter me. And so it was a massive part of my identity for a very, very long time.
I love that. I appreciate you breaking that down. What was your welcome to gymnastics moment? Like, was there a moment where you were like, wow, I've arrived, or wow, this is going to be really hard? Because gymnasts, Dave, as we know, that's an everyday from young kid to adult process. So go ahead.
Yeah, so the I think the decision to really commit to gymnastics as not just a part of, my own life, but as a part of my family's life is I was homeschooled for a little bit. So in fifth grade, I went ahead and was enrolled in a charter school. So not like the traditional homeschooling that you kind of think of, but online classes. I was in the gym all the time, two-a-day workouts, basically for up until I went back to school as a sophomore in high school. So from then on, it really felt like, okay, this is what we're going to focus on. This is what we're going to put our time, energy, money into. But it never felt like that for me. Again, I just loved to show up and practice my craft every day, even from a young age. I distinctly remember having Saturday, 8 a.m. practice every Saturday. And I was the one like sneaking into my dad's bedroom and being like, Dad, Dad, we gotta go. We gotta leave, and my dad's like, okay, I'm up, like just so it was never this kind of drag, really. I did it for the love of, and um, I never regret like looking back on any of that through that experience. Um, and I really truly loved every bit of it.
Yeah, I appreciate you being vulnerable there too, because it's so good for our athletes to hear, and even for our coaches that are like maybe getting wrapped up in the wrong side of competition, and it's very common these days. So for you to say, "Hey, I knocked on my dad's door. I showed up every day. I loved it." I don't know. To play college athletics, you have to love this. Like you
You
have to
have
really
to.
love it.
You
Yes.
really do. It's got to come from a deep part of yourself. Um, it cannot be a driving factor, in my opinion, from others. My parents were fantastic. I kind of mentioned this, I did have my fair share of injuries. So every time I had a fairly significant injury, my parents, checked in with me and
Mhm.
were like, is this still what we want to do? Is this still the path? Is this still, and looking back, as a parent now myself, like I just like is the best thing they could have done, right? Never had I thought about quitting. I had doctors tell me I should quit. They were like, you really should stop, and I was like, no, that's not an option. Um, so support systems are huge, but the second I could drive, the minute I got my license, my parents were like, here's a car, you're on your own, drive yourself to and from practice. And I did. My schedule was grueling. When I went back to high school, I left school early. I drove myself to the gym almost every day. I spent my afternoons, evenings with my coaches. I drove home. I ate, did my homework, went to bed, got up, did the same thing every day, and I loved it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess what I would say is there's a lot of parents and athletes, like I said, that will listen, coaches as well. And they're probably thinking, Madison, that's all great, but like, what were the tough times, the injuries, the days that you didn't want to wake up? Like, talk about those times and how you got through those times.
Yeah. I think something to note too for myself is I had no problem with competition, right? Like that was the whole point. You train, you go, you show up, you put on your leotard, you represent yourself and you represent your club and show off what you got. But to be honest with you, I loved training.
Yeah.
That's really what drove me. I loved learning new skills. Gymnastics is one of those sports, we've got four events. You learn different skills on each of those four events. I just love to hop around and learn new things. And so training was actually what I loved to do. Competition was great and was a side effect of the training. Winning is obviously fantastic, but the winning for me was never really part of it. Like I said, I love to be in the gym. There was never a time where I really was like, man, I don't want to go, you know? Um, However, I will say, the injuries that I had sustained younger, I went to all the PTs. I showed up even when I couldn't do the things at practice and I did more physical therapy. and I did the things that I couldn't do. If it was an arm injury, I was dancing, I was doing my jumps, and I turned into a very good dance, jump, floor exercise individual. And so you just pick and choose how you want to frame your injuries into opportunities. And that's what I did a lot. I would say things started for me to break down a little bit when I tore my ACL in high school as a senior.
Elaborate.
That to me is where things started to shift just a little bit for me. That's where the creeping in of like, I don't really want to go today, like that was a tough time for me, which is interesting though, because I had committed to go and do gymnastics in college. I went to Ball State University, chirp, chirp.
I had to get one in
And
there. Yeah.
what'd you say? Sorry.
I had to get one in there. I was
Had
waiting
to,
for it.
had to.
Yeah.
It was a really unfortunate situation in that I tore my ACL at a competition 2 weeks after I signed my national letter of intent. It was calling my new college coach and saying, "Hey, like I have to have knee surgery and stuff," was really, really tough. Um, I think though, your senior year, there's just so much going on. Your senior year in high school. Your friends are preparing to figure out where they're trying to go. As a gymnast, the recruiting process is fairly early. I knew where I was going. I signed it. I was like, you know, took the ACT, SAT, knew though that I guess I shouldn't say that. School had never really been overly difficult for me, so I knew academically speaking, I was not going to have an issue enrolling at Ball State.
Right.
Um, so I kind of went on cruise control my senior year. And then when I tore my ACL, it really did give me an opportunity to live a little bit. And I say that badly. It's not that I didn't live. It's not that I didn't go to high school football games on a Friday night. It's more that the mentality of, hey, I got to leave the football game on Friday night early because I have 8 a.m. practice Saturday morning started to fall away. It started to kind of be like, well, I'm not really going to be doing a ton at practice because I'm hurt, like I'll stay at the game the whole time. I'll hang out with my friends after. The security of the scholarship, I think, led into that a little bit too. Um, ACLs are tough. They handle ACL injuries a lot better than they did. I'm not trying to date myself too much here, but they just do the surgery different than they did for me. And the process was grueling to get myself back into a state where I felt not that the leg itself was strong enough, but like where my confidence felt like, okay, I'm not going to re-hurt myself. It really wasn't until my senior year that the fear of injury started to creep into my life. Does that make sense?
A lot of sense. And I'm going to ask you one more question. I'm going to turn it over to Dave here. When you're going through that time,
Mhm.
you've talked a lot about today about kind of falling back into like societal norms and like going back into like, oh, I can be a normal high school kid for a little bit.
Mhm.
Can you explain to athletes out there that are looking to play Division One, looking to go to the Olympics, looking to go to all this stuff? Like, what's the difference maker? Like, what made you be able to have that elite mindset every day to go into a Division One and do what you did?
Oh, yeah. Um, I know that this is so cliche in a sense, and I've said it already, but I truly loved my coaches. I loved
Yeah,
training.
can you
I
shout them
loved
out? Shout out your coaches real quick.
Shout
Go
out
ahead.
to my coaches who some are still at that facility, some are at different facilities, some have transitioned into college and are coaching at like Clemson now. So shout out Luke Lawson, you're my hero.
Oh,
With me through all of it. Um, it just felt like home because I had spent so much of my childhood in that facility with those individuals. It really was a second home for me. I didn't know any different. I didn't know that I had the option to do other things. And it's not that they weren't offered to me. I just was so zeroed in and focused in what I wanted and what I knew I wanted to do that everything else just felt like it didn't compare. I like have distinct memories of winter here in Ohio and being like, "Hey, like my friends are going ice skating, like I want to go ice skating." And my parents and my coaches just being like, "Hey, like that's fine, but just remember, if you break an ankle, your season's done." And it was and that winter tends to be right on the cusp of club season, starts in like late January, early February. And it never outweighed. I was like, yeah, you know what? I don't need to go ice skating. That's fine. Because the competition and like it was more important to me than the ice skating. And so I never ice skated. To this day, I've gone one time. I am terrible.
Yeah. I would
I'm
say
a
I would say
god
this
awful
too.
ice skater.
No, and I'm gonna go to David for the mailbag here, but like the message today that I'm getting is, you only get one of these careers. Like you only get one of these opportunities. And once it's done, and I'm gonna go to Dave here,
Mhm.
it's done. The social media posts fade, the merch fades, your parents driving the bus, it eventually runs out of gas. The most beautiful thing is going out on your terms and doing what you did with your career and now staying in athletics. Dave, I'm going to you, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, going off that, what's one piece of advice you would give to someone that you wish you knew more about mental health in that area?
Oh my gosh. Again, not to totally date myself, but social media was not a thing for me growing up. It was barely a thing in college, right? What student athletes and athletes in general have to manage and deal with now is not what I had to. The intense scrutiny that these athletes put themselves under, not just to post when they're training, right? Like I know that that's a huge part of it to feel like they have to be perfect constantly, even when they're training, and that's supposed to be the time where you're figuring it out. I think from a social media standpoint, just know that you don't have to post everything. There's certainly parts of your life and your training that are allowed to be private. Your struggles, your successes, need to be fulfilled from you and not from the amount of likes or the amount of views that you're getting, right? I think this is very much that internal versus external gratification, right? Feel like you can walk out of your training facility every day and be like, did I do enough to make myself just that much better today? And not feel like you have to post it and tell the world about it. Find that love inside and that drive to be a little bit better, not externally, but internally. And I think that that will help for mental health. Like social media, mental health was not a conversation that we were having. Some of the stories that I could tell about my training regimen and just how, even into college would probably make some coaches and some athletes and some parents certainly keel over, right? It was a little bit of a different time. So I'm not going to harp on that because I know that things are different now. But I think that allowing yourself time to reevaluate is always also a good option. My parents opened that door, as I had mentioned, constantly, right? Like just constantly check in with yourself, check in with your coaches, check in with your peers and your teammates, and, like build your community around people that you feel open enough to say, hey, I'm really struggling right now. Training is just not going well. Can we do something different? Or do I need to take a break? Do I need a week off? And sometimes my coaches would say that, like they would be like, you know what, you need to not come back into the gym for 4 days. And at the time, that was brutal. I'm like, what do you mean you don't want me to come into the gym for 4 days? But really what they were doing was forcing me to go and I guess the cool term would be touch grass. Like go get a stroke of reality for half a second and then come back. And when I did come back, I felt such clarity and the blockers and the things that just were dragging on me were better. And so, from a mental health standpoint, give yourself capacity to breathe and check in with yourself, check in with your parents and your teammates. But at the same time, understand that, as I have said, love of has to come from you. The minute that that love of starts to not come from you and you feel like that pressure is coming from either your coaches or your parents, really try and sit down with yourself and try and understand why it is that you're doing what you're doing. Because I think
Yeah.
your career can take a drastic turn the minute that that happens.
Dave, I don't even know why we're asking questions at this point. Go ahead.
Yeah.
So good. So darn
That
good. That
there
was
was so
Oh
so
gosh.
darn good, Madison.
No, you guys, we haven't even gotten to like college and what I did after. I have had a lot of great time to reflect on my
It
experiences,
shows. It shows, girl. It does.
and it's for better or worse, you know, it is.
Yeah. Dave, you care if we keep going there?
yeah. Go for it. What you
Yeah.
got, Pete?
Yeah, I think we should keep going. Go into like after college stuff. I want you to just keep leading the conversation.
Okay, so even I guess we should talk about college a little
Yeah,
bit
fine. Fine.
before we do after college. So heading into my freshman year, I think because the conversation here is geared toward mental health
Mhm.
and, college athletics and um, the recruiting process has changed a lot since I went through that process, right?
Yep.
But I really feel like it's worth calling out to make sure that you are picking the school that you potentially are going to play at, whether you get zero money or all the money and the endorsements and the NIL, like, make sure that you and your coach are on the same page. Make sure you get
Yeah.
along with your head coach. I think that in it of itself, make sure your how you practice and how you compete aligns with how your coach is going to coach, right? Because you've grown up most likely in an environment where your coaches kind of have morphed with you, right? They know what you need. They know the support. They know what you don't need. But when you transition into college, it really is brand new, right? Brand new set of coaches, brand new set of expectations. Make sure that as you are going into that you and your coach not only can understand what your goals are and what your team's goals are, but make sure you get along as a person. I would
Yeah.
say be able to have a conversation with them outside of just your sports, like them. I think that's really important in the recruiting process because I would say my first college coach, I had two. Um, we butted heads a lot, and that made my first 2 years of college gymnastics very difficult. Um, her style did not match my style of just what I needed from her, right? So I think that's critically important as you are looking like new locker rooms, new facilities, like that stuff's all great and grand, but if you and your coach are not seeing eye to eye
It
about
ain't gonna
certain
work. It ain't gonna
things,
work.
it's not going to work. It is not. For the first time in my life, my sophomore and closing out my sophomore year, I distinctly remember calling my mom and being like, I'm done.
Yeah.
That coach ruined the love up for me. One person, years and years of buildup of, just laser focus, passion evaporated because one person came into my life and threw it completely sideways and I was done. Like, so make sure as you look at your college experience, transferring is much easier now. Again, I'm a dinosaur here. Before transfer portal, before all of that, it was much harder to pick yourself up and move to another institution, right? So the decision there was also not as open to me about how do I change my situation. Um, my second college coach was much better. I stuck with it. I competed through my senior year. Um, she gave me what I needed, which was a lot of space and a lot of time to, you know, reestablish myself, understand myself a little bit. Um, and again, mental health was still not talked about. When I was in college, we were just starting to be like, hey, maybe we should bring in a sports psychologist here. And I'm not even
Right.
talking like we had one on staff. I'm just saying like we contracted out somebody to come in occasionally,
Right.
which I love for our student athletes because it is so important.
Yeah.
But I just think that college can be tough too. High school's tough, getting to the college experience is tough, but if you want to have the kind of college experience you think you're going to have, that's also going to take a lot of work. And there's a
Correct.
lot more pressure. There's a lot more life things happening when you are in college, right? And so you're going to get tested a lot more, I think, in college. Stamping your ticket to go and play college athletics is not where you get to like cash in and be like, okay, I made it.
Right.
This is it. I'm on cruise control now. And I think a lot of people think that. Like a lot of people think, okay, like I put the work in, I deserve this spot, this, being on this team. But that doesn't mean you can't stop. You get to ease up, really. If anything, it gets harder because life gets bigger when you get to college, right?
Correct. Correct.
Right.
I'm with you.
Mm-hmm.
So we got through freshman, sophomore year.
Mm-hmm.
You finished out in your terms as a senior.
I did not finish on my terms as a senior,
Talk to me about it.
unfortunately. So because I was very injury prone, because I had, gone through all this stuff, um, gymnastics is not a sport that you carry through your adult life, right? It's not basketball, it's not baseball, like where you can just be like, hey, I'm gonna go to the court, I'm gonna get a couple guys together, we're gonna go and play.
It's
Gymnastics
different. It's
doesn't have
different.
that,
No.
right? Like when you're done, you're done. And a lot of times your body tells you when you're done. And by the time I got to my senior year, I was basically doing one event only. And I had torn my labrum in my shoulder, and we knew it. And it was to the point where I was barely training during the week and then going and like competing. It
Yeah.
was like rest, athletic trainer, all the things, all the stuff, just make it feel good and then go out, compete, throw something together, and then do the same thing over again. But it wasn't working. And so I got like 3 or 4 meets into my senior year, and my coach came to me and was like, you need to be done. You need to go have the surgery. And basically, that was it. That was like the end of all of it. And that was so incredibly difficult. It took me a very, very, very long time to reconcile and work myself through all of that.
Yeah.
Because
There-
again,
there's
we
no
didn't.
manual for that. There's no manual for that.
No, no, gosh, no. And again, the mental health, the support, our athletes, again, I'm so thankful that stuff has changed and
Yeah.
that we have resources like this where people
Yeah.
can go and talk about it. It just wasn't talked about. So that was something that was very difficult for a very long time to wrap my head around.
Yeah. You ever tell this story before openly like this?
Um, Probably with my teammates, my
Yeah,
close
never
teammates.
on a platform like this.
No, gosh, no, no.
Thank you for doing this today.
You're welcome. Yeah, of course. But there's so many athletes out there that are just like me, that just
Yeah.
have had very similar experiences that move on with their lives because your life keeps moving, whether you want it to or not. And humans have an incredible capacity to pick themselves up and move forward, whether we really want to or not. And so I'm fortunate, I feel like, to have found the next thing in my life after that. But yeah, but it all stems into um, every other part of even up to what I do today, right? So,
Yeah, this is awesome. I always talk about it. We've been doing this for a long time, and some episodes I just get caught listening because I'm intrigued by the
mm,
meaning of this and what you've been
mm.
through. This is one of those for me so far, and I do want to. I know we're over 30. We're gonna go over 30 here.
Oh, you're fine.
I appreciate you. I think professional wise now, I want to dig in a little bit deeper because obviously we work together. We've worked together for years now.
Yeah.
We've got to work together virtually and in person, and I've always kind of admired your work ethic and what you've done as a woman in sports. Like, I think that's huge because my wife was obviously a Division I athlete as well. She
Mhm,
went through her mental health struggles. She went through her
mhm,
injuries.
mhm.
So right now, as a young professional, you notice I said young there because you keep saying you're
Ha!
old. That's not the truth. Shameless plug for the YouTube. This is
Mm,
not like some old grandma on here today.
no,
Not
no,
at all. But
but
my point is, as a young woman in sports, talk about what you've done since then, and
sure.
I guess how that's helped you too.
Sure. So, Pat, like you said, you and I have worked together for years now, but this is actually my second career. So, when I was in college, when I was doing my undergrad, I studied psychology. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to help student athletes, but at the time there was not a straight career path to that. You had
Right.
to become a, psychiatrist and then you specialized in sports, but there were just really wasn't that faction of sports psychology the way we see it today. And honestly, I didn't want to keep going to school. I was like 4 years of medical school. Like that at the time that felt exhausting.
Yeah.
So I was told my career was over my senior year. I had gone through the ringer with coaches. Um, my senior year, I did like my parents about keeled over. I was like, not gonna do psychology. I'm gonna do
Yep.
something else. And I was a senior. Like I was literally getting ready to graduate, and I was like, this is not what I'm gonna do with my life. So what ended up happening is I took a year off and I coached club in Indiana. Loved it. I felt like I just wanted to close the book on being in the gym in my own time, whether it was me actually doing it or me helping other
Correct.
people do it.
Yeah.
So I dived back into the gym. I took my break. I had my surgery. I met my now husband. So other parts of my life were feeling much more fulfilled, but I felt like I just wasn't done with the gym.
Right.
Wasn't done. So I did that for probably a year and a half. And then I did decide to actually go back to school. So I have a master's degree in sport management from West Virginia University. Go WV.
Morgantown. Shout out
Oh
Dub B.
yeah.
Shout out pepperoni rolls while we're here. Go ahead.
Um, and I decided that I wanted to work in NCAA compliance. I felt like what I could do to help student athletes, if I couldn't do it through mental health and through psychology, I was going to do it on the administrative side. So that's what I did. I got a graduate assistantship. I worked in an office for years, and that's what I did, working with student athletes was again filling a hole that I felt like I didn't get to have when I was a student athlete. I felt like I wanted to be that administrator that kids could come to and be like, I just need help here. And NCAA compliance is very tricky area to work in. I worked in compliance prior transfer portal,
Yep.
prior name, image, and likeness. So keep that in your mind for a second. Um, but I got to help student athletes, whether they were coming into my office because they needed to transfer because they were having similar experiences with their coach that I was, right? The expectations were falling through, the relationships were not good. We needed to find them a new home. And that's how we like to phrase it, right? We're
Yes.
not transferring because we are running from something or, like we just need to find a better situation, whether that was closer to home, whether that just was just not here, and so I helped kids in that scenario. I also did a lot of time management, which is a piece of legislation under, like playing and practice seasons where we make sure that kids have good balance.
Right.
right? Like you needed to have certain amount of rest in between your practices. You couldn't get back from a road trip at 4 a.m., get off the bus, and then be expected to be in the weight room at 8 a.m. Couldn't do
Not
that.
feasible. Not feasible. Yeah.
Not doable now, right? Before when I was in college, nobody cared. That was not a thing we cared about, right? I would have student athletes texting me though, being like, "Hey, I need to come talk to you." And I really felt very fulfilled working in college athletics. Um, the politics of it was brutal, but
Yeah.
everything's got that side to it. Um, and then I feel like everybody kind of has this, at least people that are my age, have this like COVID pivot in their life.
Of course. Yeah.
And it's like, and then COVID. So when COVID hit, obviously the world came to a screeching halt. So did college athletics, right? Um, and I got furloughed from my job. And so did my husband, who also worked in college athletics at WVU. So we both, at that point, were married, found ourselves furloughed from our jobs. Basically, we were not allowed to go into work. And it gave us a reality check. I think that we really needed to sit down and be like, what do we really want to do with our lives? Is this grind? Because it is a grind,
Of course.
whether you are a coach in college athletics, whether you are the athlete, whether you're the administrator, whether you're the strength and conditioning coach, the athletic trainer, the mental performance coach, whomever, however you are involved in it, it is a grind lifestyle.
Yeah.
And we had the opportunity to not live it for half a second. And so we were like, there's more out there. We could do other things. There's other ways we can be impactful. So when I came back, when COVID lifted, I knew that I probably was going to be looking for something else. And it just happened that I stumbled into NCSA.
Woohoo. Yeah.
Through Front Rush, I should say.
Yes.
So I left college athletics and worked within the Front Rush team. Specifically at the time we had a product that was geared toward Division I autonomy schools and legislation that helped compliance coaches manage all the things.
Yeah.
Playing and practice seasons, financial aid, roster limits, all the different things. And so they brought me on kind of as a in-house specialist to that side of the world because had been a
You
college.
were there.
I was
Yeah. Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I did that, and I loved it, honestly. I loved that little bit of distance, but also feeling involved.
Yeah.
Calling college compliance officers and being like, how is this working for you? Is your reporting working? And helping them solve problems. At the end of the day, I like solving problems. That's basically what I do for a living.
Yes.
Um, and then just my role has changed significantly. And now I work within the product team, within our technology team, driving innovations for our online products, whether that be our college coach experience or whether that be building out our new athlete experience that is, not available yet. But we are trying to continue to lift the fog and the confusion around college athletics. And ultimately, that's always what I wanted to do. I just do it remote now with you, Pat.
Which is an absolute blessing. And thank you for everything you do on that side of things as well. It's super helpful in my day to day. It's super helpful for our company. So thank you as always for that. Here's how I want to put a bow on this today.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about being an athlete and what you've been through and your story and your journey.
Hmm.
You mentioned your husband a little bit
Hmm.
earlier.
Yeah.
How big of a role has he played in all this?
The biggest. So I always joked because I like analogies. I, as a person, was always very good at juggling about three or four things at a time.
Yeah.
So when I was in college, that was obviously school, as it should be in this order. Hint, hint, athletes, school, your sport, and your social life. right? That's what college is about, right? And
Right.
so those three things I managed to juggle well. Um, when my college athletic career came to a screeching halt, it allowed me to juggle something different, which was relationships, personal relationships, right? I met my husband that my senior year, and we have been together ever since. And so he helped balance out a lot of the loss that I had been feeling about my career in college athletics with something else, with a fulfilling relationship. And so the three balls that I was juggling was still the same, right? Except instead of college athletics, it was now my relationship with my husband. And he played Division 3 soccer. So he was a strength and conditioning coach. He was in the weight room constantly. So he lived that life with me, right? And he has been just my constant source of just compassion and stability since I was 21 years old. And that's not changed.
Yeah, as I swatted Nat away from the screen. No, that was awesome. I needed to mention that because the first thing that I noticed this week, and we'll wrap up with this, is that he followed the accounts this week.
Yeah.
And I was laughing and I was like, what amazing support from someone in your corner,
Hmm.
to not only like obviously listen to this and hopefully be impacted and maybe learn some stuff maybe he didn't
Yeah.
even know, or maybe I didn't know going into this conversation. But the level of support from your people is why we do this every week.
Yeah.
It's why Dave's flying from Colorado to the event next week, right? Like that stuff doesn't go unnoticed. My wife was the same way. Did long distance for 3 years. She was in New York, I was in Chicago. The amount of challenge and sacrifice that goes into not only a relationship like you have with your husband, but
Hmm.
relationships in your world with coaches and friends and whatever, mentors, accountability partners. That's what life is all about. So, to put a bow on this episode today, I appreciate you coming in, being vulnerable, being who you are, but also shouting out all the beautiful people along the way. And Dave, I'll let you put a bow on this too.
Yeah, thank you for coming on and sharing your story. And just one thing that stood out to me in this episode was the mental health side of things, about just staying true to yourself and determining what you want. I think that's what matters a lot. Like, there's a lot of outside validation that people seek, but you have to look inside as well. So that's one thing that stood out to me today. And you're very bright and knowledgeable. So thank you for coming on and sharing your story.
Of course. And I love what you guys are doing. The more people
Thank you.
that, come and listen, I hope that it is impactful and helps somebody that feels like they are confused or don't understand, know you're not alone and you are not the first person to ever go through what it is that you're going through.
Madison Feldkamp, you are an absolute light. This has been an awesome Sunday morning. It's
Beautiful
awesome to
way to
still
start
be
the
doing
day.
this. I'm having fun so far,
Yeah.
and I'm about to go in the cage, do some lessons, and I know there's some kids and families that needed to hear this today. So
Hmm.
thank you. And above all else, everybody keep going. Hope to see everybody out at the event next week, and everyone have a great rest of their Sunday. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.